Um, this presentation is the one that was previously prepared for, since ever prepared to come here to talk with you, and it will be about more about a demonstration of the maturational effect in the morphology and in the functional capacities and the football skills, technical skills. And this is the main message of the presentation, okay? The effect, how the variability, how the differences in maturational process can be so determinant considering morphology and considering performance. So, maturational effect on growth, physical performance, and skills. I will talk a little bit first about the concepts of growth and maturation, and then the maturity-related variation in growth status, functional capacities, and soccer-specific skills. About the first one, the concepts. All of us, if I ask to each of you what growth is, you will easily tell me, okay, the growth is how biggest a kid is growing faster than the other that is smallest than him. Okay, but growth is much more than that. It's true that we also usually we use height, stature, as the indicator of growth. Because all the other segments will grow proportionally with height. However, it's much more complex than that. So, growth is an increment in the size of the body as a whole or of specific parts of it. And this is clearly one of the major problems regarding growth concept and growth interpretation. That's true that I usually look at stature, at height, as the main value, the most used value to define growth. However, you should consider that growth is also very related with segments. And our last presenter told us that the relationship between segments and the relation with the ball, the proximity of the ball, of the body, and so on, will be very conflictable if we are not ready to understand it. And I will give you this example regarding soccer. Others I could present, but I will use just a football, a soccer example. Our growth, our tendency to growth is from the extreme parts of the body to the mean central parts of the body. First, I start to grow at a faster pace, at a faster speed, first in the feet and in hands, then in the legs and arms, and only after that in trunk. This is the tendency of the speed of growth. This means that if there is this tendency, this means that there will be a period where I'm growing faster on my lower limbs, my feet and my legs, than in the trunk. And this will also change one of the most important factors considering football, naturally considering technique, skills, is the distance between highs and the ball. Because I'm growing, the distance is increasing. And this is also a relationship that I need to develop because my relation with the ball is very much on the dependence of this distance and my perceptions. It's very common, and I'm sure that all of us, me included, all of us already said something like this to young kids, to young football players, around 12, 13 years old. Come on, man, what's happening with you? It seems that you don't know how to play anymore. In the past, a few months ago, you were technically much better than now. What's happening with you? it's common for us to have this kind of rationale, considering our young soccer players. But it's not a problem that is directly related with their attitude, with their behavior. It's clearly in line with the biological problem. They are getting some difficulties about coordination because they are growing at a very fast pace. In the body as a whole, but also in specific parts of it. And this is clearly a problem that we need to face and we need to solve. But to face it, and particularly to solve this problem, we need naturally to understand it. And that's why it's so important for me that coaches has the chance to at least superficially understand the growth process and the maturational process. So, occurs all through human life, but is during the first 2 decades of life that has a major visibility, naturally. We grow until 25, 26 years old. But after considering males, female, the process is quite similar. It's between males and females, but the major difference in the process of growth and maturation between boys and girls is that girls tend to be more, tend to have an early maturation development concerning boys. Boys are later matures considering girls. And that's the major difference. But during the first 2 decades of life, we have all this process completed. Until girls, until 13, 14 years old, she tends to stop growing, and boys until 15, 16 years old. So, different parts of the body grow at different moments and at different paces. So, can you imagine how complex this may be? Different parts of my body are growing at different paces and at different moments during the process, with the necessary changes in the proportions of the segments. And if I'm changing the proportion of the segments, naturally that will naturally affect the technical aspects of the players. So, and what maturation is? Growth, it's easy to measure. Let's go to a stadiometer. I put the player there, and I will see how tall he is. And this is a measurement of growth. However, how can I measure maturation? The measurement of maturation, it's a much more complex process. It's a much more complex process because it's occult one, is hidden. I cannot see it clearly. And that's why it's much more difficult to understand it and to assess it. But maturation refers to progress towards the mature state until the adulthood. There is a considerable differences among individuals. Our athletes are all different considering the maturational process. In timing, when growing is happening, and in tempo, the rate, the speed of the events, maturational events, especially marked during adolescence, naturally. And this is a graph just to show you what's happening with youth football. This is a study that was promoted by Professor Robert Molina in 2000. Now we edited this data in the new issue specific about soccer in Journal of Sports Science in 2012. And this is very, very interesting to look. We have here the skeletal age in this X. So skeletal age is the biological development. Here, the chronological age, the real age of the player. And what can we see in this graph? We can see clearly 2 different dimensions. A first dimension considered until 13, 14 years old, until here. What can I see until 13, 14 years old? till 13 years old, I can see that there are so many players delayed maturationally as players advanced maturationally. It's easy to see that. However, after 13 years old, what's happening? There are a huge cloud of players advanced biologically, and just a few seems to be delayed biologically. What this means? This means that coaches are using different strategies to promote young soccer players. Until 13 years old, it's very common to have the coaches using both advanced and delayed players. But after 13 years old, the scenario is not the same. Coaches are systematically using more advanced players, advanced biologically, more biologically advanced players. And this has a meaning. This means that coaches, when competitions start to increase, when the demandings of the competitions start to increase, coaches are not concerned with the future aspects of the players, and they will choose systematically that ones that are in the moment more apt, more ready to in a highest readiness state. However, this doesn't mean, as I told you in the previous communication, in the previous presentation, that in the future the scenario will be the same. Just using different categories, let me say, at different age groups. At 11, 12 age group, look, delayed players, average players, what the average player is, when the biological age and the chronological age are quite similar, are within the range of 1 year. And advanced players, when the skeletal age is advanced of chronological age. So, biologically delayed players, average biologically players, and biologically advanced players. So, what happens at 11, 12 years old? Look, the majority of them are average. But there is a extremely present there, the balance between delayed players and advanced players. However, what can we see in the next age groups? At 13, 14 years old, the majority of them still average players. However, look how depressed is the delayed category and how increased is the advanced one. If we look at the next age group, 15, 16 years old, the majority of them are not anymore in the average group, but they are in the advanced group. And the delayed players still very depressed. And there is also a question, a very interesting question. I'm sorry, I don't know if Stefano, if Carlo already talked about this, because it's reasonably easy for me to understand an Italian. But when you start to talk a little bit faster, it's completely impossible for me to understand. And probably you talk about this, I'm not sure. But there is a very interesting question that we need to raise, considering these categories and considering the relative age effect. Because we see a tendency here, considering biological maturation, but we can see also a tendency in the relative age effect. And I remember clearly a colleague of us that already passed away, Gaston Boonen, said once, relative age effect is no more than a maturational problem. And that's true. Relative age effect is a maturational problem. That's why when we control, and we will see that in the next slides, that's why when we need to study maturation, we also need to control maturation for age. Because the tendency is to be older and naturally more mature. However, it's not so linear as this. But, and there is a very interesting question that we need to raise. we saw that considering the relative age effect, there are still, in the elite groups, in the national teams, we see there that there are players born in the last trimester. Here we can see also that there are some players, and if we increase the sample, this number will also increase a little bit, but would be also increased. And a question that we need to raise and we need to try to answer is, but okay, I know that who are these guys, the advanced ones, and why they are there, and why they are being selected, because they are advanced. I know why the players born in the first trimester are there, because they are older and probably more mature. However, why there are still some players in the process born in the last trimester? Why are there still some players delayed maturationally in the process? And these are the ones that we need to study to better understand why they are there. They must have something that the others don't, for sure. That's why they are there. And that's something that we need to also to rise and to question and to try to find out. Well, and what is the real effect of maturation in the in growth and in performance? Let me talk with you about two different effects of maturation. A direct one, an indirect one, and a direct one. The indirect one is through the body size. The players that are more advanced are also tallest and heaviest. And since football is a contact sport, naturally to be tallest, to be taller and to be heavier, it will be also an advantage. So I want to see what is the real effect of maturation, and to see that I need to get the direct effect of it. And I will go that later, reducing or cancelling the effect of body size, but we will go there after. First, the indirect effect, considering also body size. Sorry about the colors that I choose, but I thought that would result. The three groups: delayed, average, and advanced biologically. And look at here are no differences. I don't know if you can see. I don't think so. All the others that don't have the non-significant are significant differences. So look, several differences that we found in the morphology, considering 11, 12 years old. Now, performance. Only one difference in the yo-yo test. And very interesting, that's why I don't know if all of you are engaged to research, but that's not the problem. I'm sure that if you are not engaged directly to research, I'm sure that that's why you are here too. And if you are not fully engaged to science as a researcher, you will use for sure some values and some information that came from science and from research. So let me tell you this. Look at this value. The only difference that we found in this age group, 11, 12 years old, was in yo-yo. But look, the ones that performed better were the delayed group, then the average, and only in the end, the worst group was the more advanced group. It's not easy, and that's why coaches need to understand, not fully, but at least superficially, as I said to you. That's why coaches need to understand superficially the growth and maturational process. It's not possible to consider these values, especially this value in the yo-yo test, without understanding a little bit what is the doxological situation, what is the growth process of the kids, of the children. And this happens because these ones, since they are more developed biologically, they are much more closed to the peak height velocity, and so with much more unbalanced, considering skills and considering some techniques than these ones. And that's why in yo-yo they need to go and to come, to go and to come, to turn, and this is maybe a little bit difficult for them since they are in the surroundings of the peak height velocity. The technical skills, no differences in technical skills. Today, Stefano Ottavio already talked about this. The non-existence of biological influence in skills. So this is something that the literature already knows. But now we'll do the same. I prepared the same results for the other age group, for the 13-14 age group. Here it is. Okay, 13-14 age group. Similar differences in body size. Here, in the functional capacities, the differences were increased. The differences were increased, considering this age group. And considering the skills, no differences in skills. So, as well as in the first age group. However, now let me talk with you about the direct effect of maturation. The other results were mainly considering that body size was present. So the more advanced were also more heavier and taller than the others, and this is an advantage. However, now we used a statistical technique that was already talked about today. That it was the Mankova. It's a technical statistic that allows me to say to computer something like this. Okay, now, dear computer, you will do the same analysis, but considering that all of them has the same height and the same weight. I will cancel or reduce the effect of body size in the analysis. And the differences that I will get will be differences that will be mainly because of maturational process and not the indirect effect of body size. Okay? And these were the results. At 11, 12 years old, this is the scenario of the previous analysis. Now, here I will put the scenario of the new analysis controlled to the body size. And here it is. The only difference that was there in yo-yo, you remember, the only difference disappeared. So no real maturational effect, direct effect at this age group, 11, 12 years old. However, we have done the same analysis for the 13, 14 years age group. Remember, differences in the both power of the lower limbs with both vertical jumps and the agility, and no differences in yo-yo and speed and in the technical skills. And we controlled also for body size. And what were the results? Look, all here differences in all of the performance tests. Differences in all the performance tests. This means that maturation is much more, the effect of maturation is much more present at this age group, 13, 14 years old, than in the youngest age group. And in skills, once again, no differences. So this means that skills are not under the effect of maturation. Some final notes. Variation in size and performance by maturity status is clearly present. It's very easy to notice. There is a contribution of the individual differences in size and maturity to variation in function and football-specific skills, as I told you. It's very important to recognize individual differences in growth, maturation, and performance. That maturity-associated variation is marked in early adolescence, less than 14 years old, reduced in boys progress to adolescence. This means that the age group 13, 14 years old is clearly the most complex one. I would not say difficult, but the most complex one to work with, and that's something that we need to follow and to keep in mind. And under 15 age group shows an higher variability due to the increased maturational differences, as I told you. And some understanding of the growth and maturational process is important to help coaches to take the best decisions. So this was what I would like to talk with you, and I know that the questions will be kept for the end of the sessions. Thank you.